भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, chapter 14, continuing from verse 16. Of course, I think we cover all the text, or did we cover only 15, 16, right? I think we need to read from 16th verse, if I'm not wrong. Someone raised hand, or it's my own hand. Okay. I don't know what to do now. Oh, okay. Can someone confirm if you see the screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Scroll up. Okay. क्वचित् कालविषमिता राजा कुल रक्षसापहृत प्रियतमा धनुषु प्रमृक्तक एव विगतजीव लक्षण आस्ते. Government men are always like carnivorous demons called Rakshasas, man-eaters. Sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of his life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is as though he loses his life. कदाचिन्मनोरथोपगतपितृपितामहादि असत्सत् इति स्वप्ननिवृत्तिलक्षणम् अनुभवति. Sometimes the conditioned soul imagines that his father or grandfather has again come in the form of his son or grandson. In this way, he feels the happiness one sometimes feels in a dream, and the conditioned soul sometimes take pleasure in such mental concoction. क्वचित् ग्रहाश्रम कर्म चोदनाति भरगिरिम् आरुरुक्षमाणो लोकव्यसनकर्षित मनः कंटक कंटक सर्करा क्षेत्रं प्रविशन इव सीदति. In household life, one is ordered to execute many yajnas and fruitful activities, especially the Vivaha yajna, the marriage ceremony for sons and daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony. These are all the duties of a grihastha, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to metal activities. A person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pains like the piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus, the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. क्वचिच्च दुस्सहेन कायाभ्यन्तरवह्निना गृहीता सार स्वकुटुम्बाय Krudyati. Sometimes, due to the bodily hunger and thirst, the conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and becomes angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. स एव पुनर्निद्रा जगरगृहीतो अन्धे तमसि मग्नः शून्यारण्य इव शेते नान्यत् किञ्चन वेद सव इवापविद्धत विद्धः. Shukadeva Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, sleep is exactly like a python. Python. Those who wander in the forest of middle life are always devoured by the python of sleep. Being bitten by this python, they again remain in the darkness of ignorance. They are like dead bodies thrown in a distant forest. Thus, the conditioned souls cannot understand what is going on in life. कदाचित् भग्नमानदंष्ट्रो दुर्जनदण्ड सुखैरलब्धां निद्राक्षणो व्यतीत हृदयेनानुक्षीयमान विज्ञानो अन्धकूपे अन्धवत् पतति. In the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul is sometimes bitten by envious enemies, which are compared to serpents and other creatures. Through the tricks of enemy, the conditioned soul falls from his prestigious position. Being anxious, he cannot even sleep properly. He thus becomes more and more unhappy and he gradually loses his intelligence and consciousness. In that state, he becomes almost perpetually like a blind man who has fallen into a dark well of ignorance. कर्हिस्मचित् काममधु लवान् विचिन्वन् यदा परधारपरद्रवयानि अवरुन्धानो राज्ञा स्वामिभिर्वा निहता पतति अपारे निरये. The conditioned soul is sometimes attracted to the little happiness derived from sense gratification. Thus, he has illicit sex or steals another's property. At such a time, he may be arrested by the government or chastised by the woman's husband or protector. Thus, simply for a little material satisfaction, he falls into hellish condition and is put into a jail for rape, kidnapping, theft, and so forth. अथ च तस्मात् उभयतापि हि कर्मास्मिन् आत्मनः संसारावपनम् उदाहरन्ति. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because its original source and breeding ground of material miseries, both in this life and in the next. मुक्तस्ततो यदि बन्धा देवदत्त उपाच्छिन्नति तस्मादपि विष्णुमित्र इति अनवस्थितिः. Stealing or cheating another person out of his money, the conditioned soul sometimes, so somehow or other, keeps it in his possession and escapes punishment. Then another man named Devadatta cheats him and takes the money away. Similarly, another man named Vishnumitra steals the money from Devadatta and takes it away. In any case, the money does not stay in one place. It passes from one hand to another. Ultimately, no one can enjoy the money and it remains the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. क्वचिज्जशीतवातादि दैविक भौतिकात्मीयानां दशानां प्रतिनिवारणे अकल्पो दुरन्त चिन्तया विषण्ण आस्ते. Being unable to protect himself from the threefold miseries of material existence, the conditioned soul becomes very morose and lives a life of lamentation. These threefold miseries are miseries suffered by mental calamity at the hands of demigods, such as freezing wind and scorching heat. Miseries offered by other living entities, and miseries are arising from the mind and body themselves. क्वचिन्मितो व्यवहरन् यत्किञ्चित् धनम् अन्येभ्यो वा काकिनिका मात्रम् अपि अपहरन् यत्किञ्चित् वा विद्वेषन् एति शाठ्यात्. As far as transactions with money are concerned, if a one person cheats another by a farthing or less, they become enemies. अद्वन् अमुष्मिन् इम उपसर्गास्तथा सुखदुःखरागद्वेषभयाभिमान प्रमादोन्माद शोकमोहलोभा मात्सर्येष्राव्यमान स्कुत् पिपासादि व्याधि जन्म जरा मरणादयः. In this materialistic life, there are many difficulties, as I have just mentioned, and all of these are insurmountable. In addition, there are difficulties arising from so called happiness, distress, attachment, hate, fear, false prestige, illusion, madness, lamentation, bewilderment, greed, envy, enmity, insult, hunger, thirst, tribulation, disease, birth, old age, and death. All these combine together to give the materialistic conditioned soul nothing but misery. वापि देव मायया स्त्रिया भुजा ललोपगूढः प्रस्कन्न विवेक विज्ञानो यद्विहार गृहारम्भाकुल हृदयस्तद् आश्रयावसक्त सुत दुहित्र कलत्र भाषितावलोक विचेष्टितापहृत हृदय आत्मानं अजितात्मा पारे अंधे तमसि प्रहिनो प्रहिणोति. Sometimes the conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. Thus, he loses his intelligence as well as knowledge of life's goal. At that time, no longer attempting spiritual cultivation, he becomes overly attached to his wife or girlfriend and tries to provide her with a suitable apartment. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of that home and is captivated by the talks, glances, and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself in the dense darkness of material existence. कदाचित् ईश्वरस्य भगवतो विष्णुचक्रात् परमान्व आदिदिवि परार्धापवर्गकालोपलक्षणात् परिवर्तितेन वयसा रंहसा हरत आब्रह्म तृणस्तम्भादीनं भूतानाम् अनिमिषतो मिशितां वितृष्ट हृदयस्थं एवेश्वरं कालचक्रनिजायुधं साक्षात् भगवन्तं यज्ञपुरुषम् अनादृतपाखण्डदेवता कङ्क गृहबकवट प्राय आर्य समय परिहृता सांख्येत्येभ्याभिदत्ते. The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of atoms up to the time of Brahma's death, and it controls all activities. It is always revolving and spending the lives of living entities from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus, one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity, and thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it is the personal wheel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent death danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefatigable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes the shelter of man-made god described in unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion, and neither vultures, buzzards, crows, or herons can save one from such an attack. One who takes shelter of unauthorized man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. यदा पाखण्डिभिरात्मा वञ्चितैस्तैरुरु वञ्चितो ब्रह्मकुलं समावशं तेषां शीलम् उपनयनादिश्रौता स्मार्ता कर्मानुष्ठानेन भगवतो यज्ञपुरुषस्याराधनम् एव तद् अरोचनं शूद्रं कुलं भजते निगमाचारे शुद्धितो यस्य मिथुनी भाव कुटुम्बभरणं यथा वानर जातेः. The pseudo swamis, yogis, and incarnations who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are known as Pashandis. They themselves are fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement, and whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in his turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, Brahmanas, or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Vedic rituals. However, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Shudras who are very expert in making arrangement for sex indulgence. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and such people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys. We'll stop here to cover these 15 verses. And yeah, let me refer my notes. Okay. Yeah. So I think last week on Thursday we were discussing already how government men are always like carnivorous demons like Rakshasas. How on one side we say they are supposed to represent the Lord, but the government men sometimes they start indulging in exploiting in the name of Lord to do whatever they want. The word Rajakula Rakshasa, instead of becoming Rakshaka, they become Rakshaka. Rakshasa means one who is um, in the purport Prabhupada means Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled about 5,000 years ago, yet government men are referred to as Rakshasas. If government men are opposed to a person, that person will be bereft of all his riches which he has accumulated. Actually, no one wants to pay income taxes. Yeah, I think when income tax comes, immediately we thought, oh, why should we pay? After all, when we are working, then there is some money generated. So even government men themselves try to avoid these taxes, but at unfavorable times, income taxes are exacted forcibly, and taxpayers become very morose. And then sometimes the conditioned soul imagines that his father or grandfather has again come. This is why sometimes they say, you know, he is, I think he is my father, he's my grandfather. So, and in that way, in this way, he feels the happiness one sometimes feels in a dream. And the conditioned soul sometimes take pleasure in some mental concoction. I've seen this is a kind of weakness, so to say, just like in dream, we are weak to control our mind, that it flows into various thoughts and diverts our attention. uh, of course, if it's a favorable dream, that's nice. If it's unfavorable dream, then it's mm, so similarly, what happens is in real life also, if someone has recently lost some of his very close person or family member, they would just say, at the same time, I think there's someone else who is born. I think he is definitely my father, my grandfather, or my husband, my so and so, they have reappeared so that I can now spend time or he. So all attention is given to that. And this is kind of, and the conditions will sometimes take pleasure in some mental concoction. So this is that. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions they gather together as family members, and the marital affection is so strong that even after father, grandfather passes away, one takes pleasure in thinking that they return to the family in different forms. Sometimes this may happen, but in any case, the conditioned soul likes to take pleasure in such concocted thoughts. Prabhupada writes, it's not like I'm highlighting something of my opinion. Prabhupada puts it straight like that. Kvachit grahashrama. Grashrama is a householder life. Grahashrama karma chodanati. Um, Propelled, or chodana is to impulse or induced by karma. The rules of fruit activities, atibhara girim. Then what happens is he starts getting into the household life. Yeah, come on. Sanskaras are need to be performed. There are all different kinds of sanskaras, and yeah, one of the very celebrated sanskar is Vibha sanskar. And yeah, Vivaha is just bringing two souls together, or actually two persons together, and engage uh, a life of togetherness to keeping Krishna in the center, serving him, but rather it becomes just a matter of formality, a ritual, and these days these rituals have become quite expensive. Yeah, because it's no more in your control. Yeah, there is no, of course, people don't want to go straight away for a registered marriage. Yeah, or no, they want, oh, this is one time event. Of course, these days it's happening multiple times, no more one time. So all expectations are that this first bond can become the last bond, or lasting, everlasting bond, but it's an elastic bond, and a matter of time when this, yeah, stretches enough and it breaks. And the less the elasticity, the tenacity of it, the quick it breaks. But nevertheless, yeah, in this verse we see, in household life one is ordered to execute many yajnas and fruitful activities, especially vivaha yajna, and the sacred ceremony. These are all the duties, and these have become very expensive, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. And it is compared like a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to mental activities. Once I was climbing, of course, without notice of my parents. Oh, I thought, wow, if I tell to my parents, they'll not allow me to climb the hill. And of course, we didn't want to climb steps, so we wanted adventure. So, um, uh, just at the foot of the hill was my friend's home. We went to study for some exam. Then we gathered together and we said, okay, why don't we climb up? And that too, you know what? This is a big hill, and it was, yeah. By the time it's evening, we go home. We can come back. So we climbed that hill, of course, was a bit itself challenge, because not through the stairs, but like just like that. While coming was quite dangerous, yeah, because the slope was so much that if we don't run enough speed down the hill, then yeah, we will just fall flat from like a 10 floor high. Yeah, so we may think that all this is so cool. The Grihastha life is quite exciting. In fact, yes, sanskaras are so nice. Yeah, but this becomes overwhelming when we need to do it properly. Executing them is troublesome, and a person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies, yeah, which means if we really wanted to cross over the hill to climb well, come down well, certainly feels pain like piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. So we may think, oh, climbing is adventurous. After all, it's so nice. But thus the soul, conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. Uh, this sometimes the adventure can kill. Prabhupada brings Prahlad Maharaj verse, Hitvatmapatam Krahmandakupam Vanam Gato Yat Dharim Ashrayeta. So rather climbing any kind of a hill, of course, one should go to the forest, and not any forest, but Vanam Gato Yat Dharim Ashrayeta. So one should go, get out of this struggle of the household, and take shelter. It is the so-called comfortable family position is compared to a dark well in a field. If one falls in dark well covered by grass, his life is lost. So we are taking all kinds of risks. Despite his cry for rescue, nothing will protect. And it is better to prepare oneself in the brahmachari ashram for austerities and remain pure brahmachari throughout one's life, so that one will not feel the piercing thorns of material life in grihastha ashram. So that's why, I mean, sometimes we may feel, okay, a brahmachari thinks, oh, great about himself, comparing himself to a grihastha. Think, you know what? Grihasthas are like, okay, they're not highly advanced. Hmm? That's why they have fallen into grihastha ashram. Hmm? Despite his highly advanced spiritualists, therefore recommend that one should not enter the grihastha ashram. Yes? Right. Yeah, we can see so many purports. Yeah, how different sages, saintly people have asked. In fact, Narad Muni had, whenever Brahma was creating new population. He used to just make them devotees. No, no. Hari Ashwas. No. And then we can see Kumaras. So in that way, but what? In the Grihastha ashram, one has to accept invitations from friends and relatives and perform ritualistic ceremonies. By so doing, one becomes captivated by such things, although he may not have sufficient resources to continue that. Yeah, who is richy rich? Yeah, the more rich you are, the more you spend. And again, you are still struggling to, okay, maybe let me take some loans. You have some credit cards. Let me, okay, I think I can manage it this month, next month, I can repay. All these things. To maintain the Grihastha life, one has to work very hard to acquire money. Thus, one is implicated in material life and he suffers the thorn pricks. And in this way, he struggles. And then sometimes due to bodily hunger and thirst, the conditioned soul becomes so disturbed that he loses his patience and become angry with his own beloved sons, daughters, and wife. Thus, being unkind to them, he suffers all the more. There is this Vidyapati Thakur, Ta Tala Saikate Vari Bindu Sama Suta Mita Ramani Samaje. Suta, sons, Mita, friend, Ramani, beautiful lady, in society. It's like the happiness of family life is compared to a drop of water in desert. No one can be happy in family life. Hmm? Um, According to Vedic civilization, one cannot give up responsibility of family life. But today, everyone is giving up family life by divorce. This is due to miserable condition experienced in the family. Sometimes due to misery, one becomes very hardened towards his affectionate son, daughter, and wife. This is but part of blazing fire of forest of middle life. The more one is thinking, oh, by the process of divorce, we can become more free. Yeah, is creating another problem, yeah, in the society. So this is what is highlighted. Then even if one may think, okay, through drivers or through other drivers, one can become free, completely free from any responsibility. But one is still a slave to what it is called. Uh, he is saying, Shukadeva Goswami is telling to Parikshit Maharaj, my dear king, uh, sleep is exactly like a python. Those who wander in the forest of middle life are always devoured by python of sleep. So how to handle that? How to handle that? Being bitten by this python, they always remain in darkness of ignorance. They are like dead bodies thrown in a distance. Huh? Nidrahara vihara kadi vichitau. So the six Goswamis in the what is this Ashtakam? Shiksha, no. Shed Goswamis, Shed Goswami Ashtakam, Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Vichitau. They are always the Goswamis of Vrindavan practically do not sleep at all. Of course, they slept some, for the body requires sleep, but they slept only about 2 hours and sometimes not even that. They always engaged in the spiritual cultivation. So we should try, I mean, instead following in the footsteps of Goswamis, we should try to reduce sleeping, eating, mating, and defending. And then in the forest of material existence, the conditioned soul is sometimes bitten by envious enemies. Envious enemies. Enemies, okay, if they are not, um, who is an enemy, who is not your friend. Hmm? One who is not favorable to you is enemy. And not only ordinary enemy, but envious enemy means he cannot see you flourishing. The moment you flourish, na, okay, yeah, his enmity becomes more strong. Through the tricks of enemy, the conditioned soul falls from his prestigious positions. From Ramayana, we can see Simhika when Hanumanji was flying high in the sky. You know what happened? The Simhika had the power to grab the shadow of Hanuman, which is on the ocean, and she was even trying to pull him down. Yeah. So there's always someone who cannot fly to you. They can grab your shadow, which is your recognition, and they pull down. through tricks of the enemy, the conditioned soul falls from his prestigious position. Being anxious, he cannot even sleep properly. This is what happens. Yes, if someone is bitten by envious enemy, it becomes quite challenging. Neither the enemies can sleep, neither the person affected by him can sleep. He thus becomes more and more unhappy, and he gradually loses his intelligence. Yeah, then he starts coming to his level, uh, and becomes unconscious, means not having senses, not being active in Krishna consciousness. In that stage, he becomes almost perpetually like a blind man who has fallen into a dark well of ignorance. And then there is further again mentioning about what is this attraction towards the opposite gender. Uh, and atha cha tasmad ubhaya tapi hi karmasmin atmanah samsaravapanam udaharanti. Learned scholars and transcendentalists therefore condemn the materialistic path of fruitive activity because it is the original source and breeding ground of material miseries, both in this life and next life. Krishna is saying that's why how to protect ourselves in the knowledge in the confidential knowledge. Yeah, in the chapter 9, there is this yat kharosi yat asnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasasi kaunteya tat kurusva mad arpanam. Everything whatever you are doing, yeah, do it with love and offer it everything to me. Whether it is tapasya, whether it is yajna, whatever activity that you do, offer everything to me. The, and then one can only one very few can have this cultivated maturity. uh, yeah, bahunam janmanam ante jnanavam ma prapadyate vasudeva sarvamitti samahatma su durlabha. So such people are very rare, but one should aspire to become that. Otherwise, the next verse there is a nice mention about stealing and cheating. Huh? You will cheat someone, someone will cheat you, and the other one will cheat that one. In the purport, riches come from Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, and the goddess of fortune is the property of Narayan. The goddess of fortune cannot stay anywhere but by the side of Narayan. Therefore, another of her name is Chanchala, restless. She cannot be peaceful unless she is in the company of her husband Narayan. For example, Lakshmi was carried away by materialistic Ravana. Ravana kidnapped Sita, the goddess of fortune belonging to Lord Rama. As a result, Ravana's entire family, opulence, and kingdom were smashed. Hmm. So, one should be very careful. Huh? This is the point of Krishna consciousness movement. We worship Lakshmi. In bracket, Prabhupada mentions Radharani along with Narayan in bracket Krishna. We collect money from various sources, but that money does not belong to anyone but Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan. If money is utilized in the service of Lakshmi Narayan, the devotee automatically lives in an opulent way. However, if he wants to enjoy Lakshmi the way Ravan did, he will be vanquished by the laws of nature, and whatever few possessions he has will be taken away. Finally, death will take everything away, and death is the representative of Krishna. So, in this way, yeah, being unable to protect himself from the threefold miseries, yeah, then what happens? Yeah, he becomes very, very sad. And as far as transactions with money are concerned, if one person cheats another by farthing or less, they become enemies. Samsara Davanala. Davanala is like a fire, forest fire. Hmm? Samsara is like that. Even in ordinary transactions between two people, there is invariably cheating because the conditioned soul is defective in four ways. I think these details we have covered. One is to be illusioned. Hmm? Next one is to commit mistakes. The third one is knowledge is imperfect, because senses are perfect, and he has the propensity to cheat. Because of these four defects, uh, he cannot he will be cheated, and he wants to cheat and he will be cheated. In the purport 26, it said the scientists are cheaters because they present so many bogus things in the name of science. They propose going to the moon, but actually they end up cheating the entire public of large sums of money for their experiments. Anyway, it's a debatable topic in itself whether really the scientists landed on moon or not moon. That's okay, but in that name, a lot of government funds are reserved for it, and there is. The best process is to take the advice and instructions of Sri Krishna or his bona fide representative. In this way, one can be happy in this life and the next. Hmm? Otherwise, one has to suffer with all the Richard Vargas and all the problems. Mm. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions concept that there is, uh, yeah. Namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradhama maya pahrata jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. There are four kinds of people. Hmm? Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, duskritino, lowest among mankind, naradhama, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, jnana apahrita, where is that? Maya apahrita jnana, and who partake of atheistic nature of demons. Asura bhavam ashritaha, who take shelter of that. These are four kinds of people. Uh, they are rascals. Prabhupada mentions, although people declare themselves very great scientists, economists, philosophers, politicians, and sociologists, they are all actually nothing but rascals. Prabhupada mentions. So that's all. Why so? Because they are themselves mudhas. He becomes mudha because he doesn't understand. These are the qualifications of demons. Why? Because consequently they waste time and energy in search of so-called happiness. Whatever all this propaganda that happiness is in this world, one can enjoy. There is no God elsewhere. All this is cheating. Mudhas. They are foolish and they make others fool. Hmm. Due to this, he envies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, birth and death, he is born. Sorry, birth after birth, he is born in a demonic family. He thus forgets his relationship with Krishna and remains a Naradhama. Adhama means the lowest, Naradhama, the lowest of humans, in an abominable condition, life after life. And then sometimes the conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified. There is this mention about girlfriends, wife. When the conditioned soul is embraced by his beloved wife, he forgets everything about Krishna consciousness. The more he becomes attached to his wife, the more he becomes implicated in family life. Uh, this attraction is called Deva Maya. The attraction between man and woman is cause of bondage for both. Hmm? And yeah, anyway, there is further description about this, how it can be distracting. And then kadachit, sometimes what happens is that the personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, which is time, the disc is also the time. It spins, it doesn't stand, it keeps spinning. Sometimes I see also they show that this wheel is always spinning. The time factor, this is time, and that's why Hari Chakra, disc of Hari, is the wheel of time. This also is used to kill someone. The killing is also taking away the time of someone. And everyone, from Lord Brahma to insignificant blade of grass, everyone is affected by that. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of lion. If someone is saying, some scientists are telling, in 30 years we will become immortal, we know how to, or maybe in 50 years from now we will find the medicine to have no diseases. All these are not at all. These are like vultures, buzzards, and crows and herons. And when lion comes, all they fly away. When the real death is coming, the scientist is not protecting himself. Nothing is happening. One who takes shelter of unauthorized man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. Harin vina mritim na taranti. No one can save himself from the cruel hands of death. without being favored by Lord Hari. Hmm. So, and then Pakandi, then there are these godless atheists, they start propagating pseudo swamis, yogis, pseudo yogis, and incarnations are also pseudos who do not believe in the Supreme Lord are called Pashandi. Pashandi. That's why even the religions which are telling about not about the real personal form of Lord are called Pashandi Mata. Religion. Pashandi means mm, which is more about voidism, all these things come into that. They themselves are fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles who teach them, but because the conditioning is so strong, they think, oh no, I can't maintain. Following four regulative principles is impossible. Oh no. And they again go back to one's own conditioning of enjoyment. And it is said, the last line of the translation, and Prabhupada mentions, thus he falls down and takes shelter of people who are like monkeys. In the Krishna consciousness movement, these monkey disciples, being unable to follow the strict regulative principles, sometimes fall down and try to form society based on sex. This is the proof such people are descendants of monkeys as confirmed by Darwin. Yatha vanara jate. So the scriptures are giving clue that not, I mean, it's not like a theory of evolution that, okay, we all have come from monkeys. No, only people who have not used human form properly and got caught up in enjoyment, they are becoming monkeys. Yeah. It's not that from monkeys human is coming, from human not using the precious life, they become monkeys. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any thoughts or questions? No. Yeah, then we will cover the remaining part of the chapter tomorrow. Until then, take care. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।